We grew up believing the deep ocean was silent. Not just quiet, silent. The picture most people carry is the same. Below the surface, below the light, below the noise of ships and weather, there is only darkness and absolute stillness, a place where sound itself stops existing. Here is the problem. That picture is wrong, completely, fundamentally wrong. And the proof has been sitting in the data of NOAA's underwater hydrophone networks for over 30 years. The deep ocean is not silent, it is a concert. Every hour of every day, sounds travel through it that our best science cannot fully explain. Sounds that have been recorded continuously for decades without anyone being able to identify their source. Sounds that travel thousands of kilometers through the dark water and arrive at sensors on the other side of the ocean still strong enough to be measured. Some of these sounds have been explained, some of them have not. And one of them, the last one we're going to talk about today, is not a mystery at all. It is something stranger than a mystery. Stay with me, because we are going to go through 4 sounds from the deep ocean that will change the way you hear the world beneath the surface. And by the time we reach the 4th one, the ocean is going to feel very different than it does right now. There is a new story like this every week on this channel. Now, let us go in. August 1991, NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, has just completed the transition of a network called SOSUS, the Sound Surveillance System, an array of underwater hydrophones originally built during the Cold War to detect Soviet submarines moving through the Atlantic and Pacific. After the Cold War ended, NOAA repurposed the network for science. Instead of listening for submarines, they began listening to the ocean itself. The moment they switched on and started recording, they found something. A sound, not a single tone, a repeating sequence of notes that rose in frequency again and again, cycling upward in pitch like someone drawing a bow across the lower strings of a cello and slowly moving higher, over and over, without stopping. They named it the Upsweep. They recorded it, and it sounded like this. Here is what I want you to understand about the scale of what they were hearing. The upsweep was detected simultaneously across the entire Pacific hydrophone network. Every sensor, every location, a sound strong enough to be picked up by instruments separated by thousands of kilometers, all hearing the same thing at the same time. To produce a sound that's strong across that distance in the deep ocean requires an energy source of enormous scale. And it was already running when they turned the instruments on. They did not catch the beginning of the upsweep. They walked into the middle of it. How long it had been playing before 1991 is unknown. It could have been weeks. It could have been years. They had simply not been listening. Let that sit for a moment. NOAA has been recording the upsweep continuously since August 1991. As of today, it is still there. More than 30 years of the same repeating signal, rising and falling in its cycle, echoing across the Pacific. 30 years and counting, with no definitive identification of what is making it. NOAA's best hypothesis is volcanic. The upsweep is seasonal, which means it changes with the time of year. It peaks in spring and autumn, which is consistent with the thermal and pressure changes that affect volcanic activity on the seafloor. The source location has been traced to a region in the southern Pacific, around 54 degrees south latitude, between New Zealand and the southern tip of South America, a remote stretch of ocean with known volcanic activity on its floor. But here is what most explanations leave out. The volume of the upsweep has been declining since 1991. Not sharply, not dramatically, but consistently, year over year, the signal is quieter than it was when they first recorded it. And scientists are not certain whether that means the source itself is weakening, or whether the ocean between the source and the sensors has changed enough to carry the sound less efficiently. The ocean, in the last 3 decades, has become measurably warmer. Warmer water carries sound differently. It bends it differently. It attenuates it differently. So when we listen to the upsweep today and hear it quieter than in 1991, we cannot be certain whether we are hearing a geological process wind down, or whether we are hearing the acoustic consequences of an ocean that is no longer the same ocean that first carried that sound to our instruments. We are listening to something we do not fully understand, through a medium that is itself changing in ways we do not fully understand, and trying to extract meaning from the combination. The upsweep is still there, right now, playing in the dark of the southern Pacific, 30 years and still unidentified, still running. March 1st, 1999. The Equatorial Pacific Autonomous Hydrophone Array, a different part of NOAA's listening network positioned in the Central Pacific to monitor the equatorial region. A sound appeared that none of the instruments had recorded before. They named it Julia, and the name, unlike most of NOAA's naming conventions, feels deliberately chosen. Because Julia sounds in a way that is genuinely difficult to describe without the recording, like something alive, something large, something that is not comfortable. Here is what I want you to understand about what they recorded. Julia lasted 2 minutes and 43 seconds. In those 2 minutes and 43 seconds, it was detected simultaneously by the entire Equatorial Pacific hydrophone network, not just nearby sensors, all of them. The sound traveled from its source to sensors at the far edges of the Pacific array and was still strong enough to register clearly. The distance involved is measured in thousands of kilometers, and it was not a sharp sound, like the crack of ice or the rumble of a submarine. It was a groan, a sustained low-frequency oscillation that shifted in pitch throughout its duration, rising and falling within itself in a way that is acoustically unlike almost anything purely geological that has been recorded. NOAA's official explanation, after analysis, is a large iceberg grounding on a shallow seafloor. A grounding event where the underside of a massive ice formation makes contact with the seafloor as it drifts, can produce extended low-frequency sounds as the ice scrapes and vibrates against rock. The source location was narrowed to somewhere between the Bransfield Straits and Cape Adare on the Antarctic coast, a vast and almost entirely inaccessible stretch of remote southern ocean. This explanation is plausible. Iceberg grounding is real, and it does produce sounds. But here is the detail that does not resolve cleanly. The frequency profile of Julia is not stable. It shifts. It oscillates within itself in ways that geological friction does not typically produce. Friction between ice and rock generates sound through the physical scraping of one surface against another. And that sound tends to have a particular character, a consistency, a physical logic. Julia's frequency variations do not entirely follow that logic. They suggest, without proving, a source that is responding to something, adjusting, not simply grinding against a fixed surface, but interacting with a changing environment. NOAA stands by the iceberg grounding hypothesis, and NOAA has access to the full data and decades of experience interpreting it in ways that make their judgment worth taking seriously. But listening to Julia in a quiet room with headphones and following the 2 minutes and 43 seconds of that sound moving across the Pacific on the first day of March 1999, it is very difficult not to feel that you are hearing something that has weight, something that is moving, something that the ocean is holding and has always been holding in a place we cannot easily reach. The ocean has kept Julia's source from us. Whatever made it made it once, and then it was done, and the Pacific closed back over the location. And there is nothing there now except water and depth and the possibility that something like it happened before we were listening and will happen again after we stop. May 19th, 1997, the same hydrophone network that would record Julia 2 years later, the same region of the Pacific, but a different sound with a different character and a different relationship to time. They named it Slow Down. The name is literal. The sound's frequency decreases over its duration. It starts at a higher pitch and descends steadily over the course of approximately 7 minutes to a lower pitch and then stops. 7 minutes. Let that sit for a moment. Most natural sounds in the ocean are brief. The crack of a whale's tail on the surface, the groan of shifting tectonic plates, the pop and snap of ice breaking from a glacier. These sounds last seconds. Some last tens of seconds. 7 minutes is not a natural duration for a single acoustic event. 7 minutes suggests something that is not a single event at all, but a process. Something sustained. Something that is happening over a span of time, and it has happened many times. Slow Down is not a one-time event. It has been recorded multiple times every year since 1997. The same pattern, the same descending frequency, the same approximate duration, returning with a regularity that is itself one of the most interesting things about it. Here is what I want you to understand about what regularity means in this context. A sound that occurs once is a mystery with a single data point. A sound that occurs multiple times per year for almost 3 decades in the same pattern is a mystery with a repeating mechanism. Something is producing this sound consistently, with enough regularity to show up in the annual data year after year, in a pattern that is stable enough to be recognized and named. NOAA's hypothesis is ice, specifically the slow movement of ice sheets across the Antarctic continent. As a sheet of ice the size of a country moves across the rock beneath it, the friction of that movement can produce low-frequency sound that carries through the water. The descending frequency of Slow Down is consistent with the physics of a large mass decelerating, which is what ice sheets do as they encounter resistance. This hypothesis is well supported. The regularity of Slow Down is consistent with seasonal patterns of Antarctic ice movement, which changes predictably through the year as temperatures shift. but I want you to hold the number in your mind one more time. 7 minutes. And a mass of ice large enough, moving across rock with enough force to produce a sound that carries from Antarctica to a hydrophone network across the Pacific, and still arrives clearly enough to be measured. The forces involved are not forces at a human scale. They are forces at a planetary scale. The sound of a continent grinding against its own underpinnings, carried through an ocean, arriving at a microphone thousands of kilometers away. Slow down is probably ice, but the ice that makes it is doing something that makes everything we call large seem small. Now I want to tell you about something that is not a mystery. This is not an unidentified sound from an unknown source. We know exactly what this is. We know what is making it. We know where it has been and approximately how far it has traveled over the last 3.5 decades. That does not make it less strange. It makes it stranger. In 1989, a team of researchers at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution was processing acoustic data from the same Cold War hydrophone networks that would later detect the Upsweep and Julia and Slowdown. And in that data, they found a whale. Not just any whale. A whale that was calling at a frequency of 52 hertz. Here is what I want you to understand about why that matters. Whales communicate through sound. The largest whales, the blue whales and fin whales that share this animal size range, call at frequencies between 10 and 40 hertz. These frequencies carry through the ocean over enormous distances, and other whales of the same species can hear them, recognize them, and respond. This is how whales find each other, how they communicate across ocean basins, how a lone whale in one part of the Pacific might locate a group of its own species hundreds of kilometers away. The frequency of the call is, in a sense, the language, and every whale of a given species speaks it. The whale calling at 52 hertz is calling at a frequency that no other whale on Earth speaks, not slightly outside the normal range, not at the edge of audibility for its species, at a frequency that researchers have never heard from any other whale, a frequency that the whales it would share its ocean with almost certainly cannot detect as a whale call at all. Since 1989, NOAA and affiliated researchers have tracked this whale's movements across the Pacific. It moves, it migrates, it behaves in every way that can be measured. Like a healthy whale, it appears to be feeding. It appears to be following the seasonal patterns that other large whales follow. It has survived more than 35 years in an ocean it shares with other whales, but there is no evidence in 35 years of recorded data that any other whale has ever responded to its call. It calls. The ocean around it is full of whales calling to each other in frequencies they can share. And this whale calls at a frequency that travels through the same water, to the same distances, and produces no replies, no responses, no evidence that anything in the ocean around it hears what it is saying. Let that sit for a moment. We do not know what this whale is. The leading hypothesis is that it is a hybrid, the offspring of a blue whale and another large whale species, whose anatomy has produced a calling frequency that matches neither parent's language. This hypothesis is supported by the fact that the call's structure resembles blue whale calls in some ways, while differing from them in the single, crucial dimension of frequency. What we do not know is what this animal experiences. Science does not tell us that. Science tells us the frequency of the call and the fact that the call is unanswered. What the whale knows, if anything, about the silence that follows its voice is beyond anything the data can access. But here is the thing that I keep returning to when I think about this. This whale has been calling since at least 1989. It has crossed the Pacific, migrated with the seasons, survived decades in an ocean it shares with its own kind. And in all that time, across all those kilometers, it has never stopped calling. Whatever it is asking for, or saying, or announcing, it has not stopped saying it. 35 years of calls into an ocean that does not answer in the language it is using. 35 years and still calling. That is not a mystery. That is not unexplained. We know exactly what it is. It is the loneliest animal on Earth. We have gone through 4 sounds. The Upsweep, still cycling somewhere in the southern Pacific as you hear this. 30 years old and still unidentified. Julia, 2 minutes and 43 seconds of something moving through an Antarctic ocean in 1999, heard across an entire hemisphere and not fully explained. Slow down, returning year after year with its 7-minute descent. The sound of a continent's weight moving across rock. And a whale that has been calling at 52 hertz since 1989 into an ocean that does not answer. Here is what I want you to understand about what these 4 sounds have in common. They were all recorded because of instruments we almost never had. The SOSUS hydrophone network was built for a war. It was designed to listen for submarines, not for the ocean itself. When the Cold War ended, the decision was made to repurpose these instruments for science, and the scientists who inherited them discovered, within months of turning them toward the ocean, sounds that had been there the entire time. We were not listening. And then we were. And what we heard was a concert that had been playing in the dark for longer than anyone knew. Here is the problem with what we can hear now. NOAA's hydrophone network covers the Pacific and parts of the Atlantic. It is a remarkable instrument, but it is not the ocean. The ocean covers 70% of the surface of this planet. Our hydrophone arrays sample a fraction of it. What is in the rest, what is calling in the parts of the ocean we are not listening to, we do not know. Every time NOAA has added instruments, or improved sensitivity, or extended the network to new regions, they have found new sounds. Sounds that were already there, already traveling, already happening in the water. They do not disappear between recordings. They do not wait for us to listen. They play continuously, in the dark, in the parts of the ocean that contain no microphones and no researchers and no ears at all. What is playing there right now, in the parts of the deep ocean we are not listening to? We cannot say. What we can say is that the ocean is not silent. It has never been silent. And the conviction that we live on a quiet planet, that the deep places of the world have no voices, was never anything more than ignorance waiting to be corrected by instruments. We were not wrong because we thought carefully and arrived at the wrong answer. We were wrong because we were not listening. Right now, somewhere in the southern Pacific, the Upsweep is cycling through its frequencies in the dark water. A hydrophone is hearing it. The data is being stored. And the sound continues, as it has continued, without a gap, since before anyone knew it existed. Somewhere in the Antarctic Ocean, the ice sheet that produces slow down is moving across the rock beneath it. The season will bring it back. It will descend again through its 7 minutes. The hydrophones will record it again, and it will still not be fully explained. And somewhere in the North Pacific, a whale that was born speaking a language no other whale speaks is diving and surfacing and calling. The call is traveling at the speed of sound through the water. It is moving away from the whale in every direction simultaneously through hundreds of kilometers of dark ocean. And on those hundreds of kilometers of dark ocean, there is nothing listening at 52 hertz. We thought we lived on a silent planet. We do not. We live on a planet that has been speaking in the dark for millions of years. In languages, we are only beginning to find instruments sensitive enough to hear. The surface is not the whole story. It never was. And the sounds underneath it are stranger and older and lonelier than anything we imagined was down there.